What's up guys, Everything Flash here. If you're new to the channel, I post various Flash related videos. I now have an Instagram for this channel. Follow me at Everything Flash Official. So many questions were answered. First off, we finally know that Savitar is a time remnant that Barry created. He was shunned by everyone on Team Flash for being an aberration, and he became driven towards becoming Savitar. This is kinda similar to what we saw in Season 2 of The Flash, when Hunter Zolomon tells Barry that both of them aren't different, and that Barry could have easily become him. In response to this, Barry tells him he had family and friends by his side, so he never would have become him. Well, now we know how that played out when everyone on Team Flash abandons him in the future. It was funny for me when this was unveiled, as I predicted this would be who Savitar is on March 22nd, and a lot of people said it was a stupid theory. Savitar's fight against Barry was one of the most epic things in this episode. We get to see that he can control his suit without even being in it. And it was especially funny when Savitar tells Barry that he has a cooler suit than him when he's in a headlock. Another thing that was interesting was how their fighting styles mimic one another, when they start to spin in circles and shoot lightning. Barry does the same thing. Right after Barry loses his memory, he looks at his ID and sees that his name is Bartholomew Henry Allen. When Iris starts calling him Barry, he says, "Bart sounds better than Barry." Barry doesn't make sense. This was the writers hinting to all the people who have read the Flash comics about Barry and Iris' future son Bart, who would later become Impulse. I think this confirms that the writers will put Impulse in a future season of Flash. It probably won't be season 4, but probably around season 5 or season 6. When Wally tells Barry he is Barry's brother, Barry awkwardly looks at his skin color, which I especially found amusing. Later in the episode, we also see Barry refer to himself as the Streak, as a reference to his initial name in season 1 given by the press. Having lost his memory, Barry also can't access his Speed Force powers and loses the court trial for the new villain Heatmonger, who is the new Mick Rory in town. What was interesting was seeing how Savitar was completely affected by this and how Wally lost his speed. As Killer Frost walked into the room, Savitar instantly threw her on the wall because he could not recognize her at all. Because of Savitar's memory loss, he never makes Wally turn into Kid Flash, hence how Wally lost his Speed Force powers. This is kind of confusing for some viewers, so I'm going to go ahead and explain it as best as I can. Savitar does everything he does because he has lived through it as Barry. Savitar's every move is dependent on what has happened to the past Barry. Therefore, if past Barry does not remember what has happened in his past life, Savitar would not be able to know how to make Wally turn into Kid Flash, and he would never have become overstruck with grief because he does not know about any of his parents' deaths or Iris's. Now, if any of you are wondering why this episode was so useless in terms of plot development, well, here it is. Each episode has a budget that they have. By not really developing the plot of this episode, they can save up more money for the season finale in which Barry and Savitar would be fighting one another. We are also yet to see Barry create all of the Time Remnant versions of himself, which would be a huge part of the budget. We've already seen this take place in Legends of Tomorrow when Reverse Flash goes to the future and gets all his Time Remnants. One of the other things in this episode that was good was how Iris felt about the new Barry. She really liked him because he was not so depressed and carrying the weight of the world in his shoulders. The way Barry asks Iris if they're doing all these normal wedding plans makes Iris wonder what Barry would be like if he wasn't the Flash. Another thing this episode I found interesting was how he actually said goodbye before leaving. Usually he would just run off and leave Iris with the wind blowing at her face and messing up her hair. In this episode, we actually get some insight of the battle Caitlyn's having between herself and Killer Frost. When Cisco mentions Ronnie, she really becomes vulnerable, emotions-wise. This is telling us that Caitlyn is still herself somewhere in Killer Frost. This is especially highlighted when we see her Killer Frost eyes flicker when she's in the elevator. This is the writers indicating that she has not completely become susceptible to the darkness, and that we might be able to still see some Caitlyn later in the season. During the end of the episode, we see that Tracy Brand has finally gotten the Speed Bazooka ready. Although I prefer it being called the Speed Cannon, but it needs a very high power source, which then leads us to our next episode, where Barry goes back in time to get Captain Cold to steal a Dominator power cell from Argus. Overall, I felt this was a really cool episode. We got to see Barry do some things he normally wouldn't, and a different side to him and Iris' relationship. My theory that Savitar was a Time Remnant was also confirmed. Only 2 more episodes left until the season ends, so we'll have to wait and see how this all turns out. As usual, thanks for watching guys. If you liked this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks.